G'day guys, Carl from Over Go Travel. Today in the garage with the big girl. Gonna do a little modification. This one should be pretty straightforward, simple. Doesn't cost a lot of money, but I think there'll be big bang for buck out of it. We're gonna change the factory speakers. Ended up just buying some Alpine Type S. I'm not gonna focus too much on what speakers I'm putting in. There are a million speakers. I spent way too many hours researching speakers. The Alpine Type S, good quality speaker. In saying that, I did find better ones, but the ones that I wanted were almost $1,000 and I went, I'm not spending that. All up, all this gear down here, I spent $330 on, bought it online. Pretty impressed actually, I bought it from Automotive Superstore or something like that. I'll put the link down below. Found it online, much cheaper than I can find at any shop. Literally bought it on a Sunday, it arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. And we'll get this stuff installed and we'll see how it sounds. 6x9 coaxial speakers and a 6.5-inch round speakers for the back doors. Same thing, coaxial. Ended up finding these Aerpro speaker adapters, harness wiring. So this should be pretty straightforward. Also for the back, I got some speaker ring adapters. I just took a guess that these would be the right ones. With a little bit of luck, this should all just bolt straight in. And for the front doors, I got 1-inch spacers. For what I can gather, the mounting depth of the speakers plus them 1-inch spacers, I'm probably about 5mm too short, but the Alpine speakers do have a 5mm spacer, so with a little bit of luck, this all bolts up. We're going to do a little bit of a sound test. I'm hoping this music's not copyrighted, so it doesn't give me copyright infringement, but anyway. This is standard factory speakers, and we'll just turn it up and see how we go. Hopefully we get a better sound with the new ones. That actually didn't sound too bad, to be honest. The other thing to keep in mind is I am filming these sound tests just on GoPro, no external microphone, something like that. And of course, depending on what you're listening to, will give you different sound quality as well, opposed to listening to it on your phone versus good speakers in your office or headphones. Keep that in mind, but we'll see how this sounds with the new speakers in. So the first step, we're going to strip the doors, we'll pull the skins off. One thing I did is I wound all the windows down, so the window sits down in the door. So then we'll see if we have any clearance issues when we do pull these out. All right, all the doors come apart the same way. So in the door handle, under this plate, there's a 10mm screw. Door handle cover comes off. I'll show you how to get that off. 2 10mm screws under that, and then everything else is just clips. Just be careful, obviously, anything interior trim-wise, you don't want to damage it. With the door handles, to pull them apart, I'm just going to use a trim removal tool. So this bit on the back is actually a permanent fixture, and this bit on the front comes out. So just carefully, whoop, already scratched it, just carefully get your trim removal tool into it, and then you can just pry it out. My recommendation, start from the back, so if you do stuff up and scratch it, no one will ever see it. So as you can see, we've got a 10mm bolt in there, 10mm bolt there, 10mm bolt there. We'll get them up and done. I'm going to cheat a little bit with this. I'm actually not going to pull the door trim all the way off. I'm just going to use a strap, hang it over the door frame, put it through the door handle, and just hold the trim up. All you need to do is just pull the door trim off. If you feel down the bottom, there's a few places you can get your hand in. So just here, so just pull that forward. Of course, be careful because there is a heap of clips. Oh, the other thing, this rubber stopper on the side, you need to get them out. And all I'm doing, everything I pull apart, I'm just going to put it on the floor in whatever side it coincides with, just so you don't lose any bolts or anything like that. Alright, you can be pedantic, you can unclip all the plugs for all the sensors, but basically if you just undo these two, there's a light in the door handle, unclip that one, unclip the sensor for the blind spot monitoring, and that exposes our lovely speaker. Problem 1, the adapter I bought, wrong adapter. Looking at the pins are going to be the same, so all I'm going to do, I'll just pull this plug off and then I'll just push the wires in and it'll sort itself out. With the back doors, exactly the same. There's a plate in the door handle, pull that off, 10mm behind that, 2 10mm screws behind the handle, and then just unclips. Same thing, once them bolts are removed, down the bottom of the door, you literally get your hand under it and just pry the door off. Again, just be careful that you don't break the clips, and one of these rubber little stoppers. Pull that out, and then the panel will just clip off, and then we're just going to strap it up out of the way. Same thing, you can see this is the bracket, so like I say, with a little bit of luck the other one will fit. Get the other 2 doors done, I'll crank that music again, we'll see the speakers work, then we'll put the new ones in, and then we'll see them work. All the door skins are now pulled up out of the way. Of course, you can do this one at a time if you want. I'll say the sound's actually better than what I expected. Anyway, we'll get the speakers out and I'll show you the difference in the speakers. Get the speakers out, literally, they just unclip. So just got that little connection, unclip that, and then 4 bolts, we'll pull them out. So once you got all the bolts undone, literally just got a little bit of foam holding them in, and then that's it, the speaker comes out. You can see the window. So that's why I put the windows down, because I wanted to make sure that the new speakers don't actually foul on the glass and the window still goes up and down. With the back doors, exactly the same thing. So electrical plug on the side, then 3 screws. So we'll get all that pulled out quickly. Same thing, just a little bit of foam holding the speaker on. So just pull that out, it she comes. That's the aftermarket speaker ring on top, and you can see the holes are going to line up. So the back speakers should be really straightforward. That's the new Alpine Type S 6.5-inch coaxial factory speaker, new Alpine Type S 6x9, and then the factory 6x9. Now I'm not going to dwell too much on the speakers, but I just want to show you a few things, right? These are real light and crappy. The Alpine 6.5-inch actually come with this mounting ring. In all honesty, I will have a look, because I reckon this would probably almost work. I think you've got more mounting depth in the back, so I reckon you could almost just bolt the speaker to this and bolt this straight to the door. And then the 6x9s, they've got this little 5mm spacer. So yeah, looking at that, we can actually mount that underneath, which should give us the clearance we need. So you can see the factory paper speaker, very light. You look at the magnet in it, tiny little magnet, look at the frame, tiny little frame. And then the other thing which makes a good speaker is the rubber surround. So same thing, that's just like cheap paper material. So you can just see that they're just cheap quality speakers. Don't get me wrong, they play ABC radio pretty good. Now, I want to show you the difference between the magnets. So you can see that the magnet on the Alpine is a much bigger magnet. Again, not going to dwell too much on speakers, but the reason I chose these Alpines is these little capacitors, whatever they are, they actually separate the high and the low notes. So theoretically, the woofer cone will play all the low notes and then all the high notes go to the top, which means that it should be a cleaner, crisper sound. But you can see the rubber on these, it's a much bigger rubber, which means more cone movement, which means better bass, clearer sound. So these should be chalk and cheese. The main thing is you look at the magnets, again, it's just completely different, right? This is a quality speaker. These guys make speakers. Nissan just put speakers in just so you can listen to ABC radio. Now, the other thing to point out is I've got a TI, so it doesn't have the Bose sound system. You'd have to pull the doors apart on the TIL and just have a look and see the quality of the Bose speakers. I haven't listened to the audio in a TIL, so it might be good already, but not a doubt in my mind that changing them will make it better. So same with the 6x9s, same thing, basic paper design, got like the small gasket, right? Which just, again, it's just not good quality sound. But I will say that real bassy song was actually a lot better than what I was expecting. I don't normally listen to like techno music. That's something that my teenage sons listen to, but still, I can appreciate it. So I'll just compare these. So same thing, got the filters, right? So you get the low notes through the woofer cone, you get the high notes through the tweeter, and then difference between magnets, again, complete chalk and cheese. And these are heavy, these are a shitload heavier than the factory ones. So the brackets that I bought, they just bolted straight in. You see there's a little bit of overlap there. We'll see if the speaker fits through. Having the spacer, I don't think it's going to cause any grief. You can also see the mounting depth in there. I think you could get away with not using these, with using the standard Alpine ones. The other thing to consider as well is the wiring from the factory sits on the outside, and obviously the connection for the speaker goes on the back side. I'm literally just going to put a little nick in there, drop that wiring through, then I'll tape over where I feed the wiring through and get the wiring in from back. But so far so good. Another thing to point out is it's actually a 6-speaker audio system. There are these little mid-range speakers in the dash that you actually forget about, but we will pull them out and I'll show you them, because they are a tiny little like 3-inch speaker maybe, so I don't even know if I can get replacements for them. I just modified this plug because that's what I do. I managed to get it to fit into the factory harness. The polarity's right, so I will just take this connection together and then I'll feed it through the door, plug it in the speaker, bolt the speaker in place, and we get done. Now, of course, the easier option would be just buy the right connection, but that'll suffice. That'll get it done for us. Let's get a little hole in here. That's it. She's mounted. All right, that's the hole. That's the spacer. See the window back there. All I'm going to do is I will mount the spacer. So I'll pre-drill the holes using the spacer, because the spacer holes are the same as the 6x9s. Once I've got all 4 holes in the spacer, then I will mount the speaker. All I'm doing with the cutout is I'm just centering it. Same thing with the wires in the door. Just modify that adapter because I bought the wrong adapter. This little hole here, Just gonna literally put a nick in the plastic, and then we'll feed the wires through at the top there, which will get the wires at the back where we need them, and then we'll mount the speaker on.
I'm gonna turn it up and then I'm gonna take it down.
Well, I think that's better noise. All back together. Just remember, when you put the doors back together, plug back in everything you've unplugged.
I'll turn it up and then I'm gonna take it down.
We got the little dash speakers out. They're just like a little mid-range 3-inch speaker, something like that. So I've done a little bit of research. I went down to House of Sounds in Newcastle and I found out a little bit more information about this little speaker, the 2.75-inch dash speaker. Now, that capacitor on the side of it is actually a bass blocker, so it's a tweeter. Now, there's not a lot of options available for 2.75 speakers. I have found a few from the States, so stay tuned. I think there'll be a stage 2 in this project. So essentially, this is a 2.75-inch tweeter. I'm actually going to put these back in and keep them in. I think I'm going to end up putting a sub in here somewhere. I think I will end up buying a set of these speakers from the States. I did run it with the dash speakers unplugged. The sounds that come out of it were not as good as having dash speakers. For me, I think you're better to have them plugged in. It gives you that better surround sound experience. Overall, the new Alpine Type S, the 6.5-inch coaxials in the back and the 6.9 coaxials in the front, absolutely love them. The sound that comes out of them is unreal. The bass is better, clearer, deeper. Just all round heaps better sound. Now, I did say at the start, I'm not going to talk about speakers too much. Look, at the end of the day, I think even if you went to super cheap and bought the cheapest option of 6x9s, coaxials and 6.5-inch coaxials, I believe they'll still be better than the factory speakers, because the factory speakers are just crap when you look at them. So either way, I think this is a good mod. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. What do you think? Is it going back to my bogan P-plater days where it's all about doof doof? Do you think it's a good mod? Do you think we should just leave it alone? If you've got a TIL and you've looked at your speakers, I would love to hear your thoughts on the TIL sound system. If you like what you see, feel free to subscribe. And until next time, go travel.